Welcome back, Elaine, to another Art of Letting Go live session. So, yeah, let's jump into today's email. There's a quote, some teaching around that, and that'll lead us nicely into today's material. We'll look at today's lesson, which is all about overcoming fear. And there's also a new insert that answers the question, what is the ego? So let me share my screen with you, and we'll kick it off with today's quote, which is from Marianne Williamson. So one of the best known course teachers. She actually probably the person who popularized the course more than anyone else in the early days of it, in the 80s. She got on the Oprah show and she wrote a book called A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles. And that was what sort of started her career, and she's become a well-known author and speaker subsequently. Okay, so if you want to read that quote from Marianne Williamson to kick it off, kindly.
Love is what we excuse me. Love is what we were born with. Fear is what we have learned here. The spiritual journey is the relinquishment or unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love back into our hearts. Love is the existential fact. It is our ultimate reality and our purpose on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others, is the meaning of life.
Yeah. So great quote by Marianne Williamson. She really just says the truth. This is all that is meaningful. And it highlights the dichotomy between fear and love. And we must choose between these two seemingly opposite forces by letting go of or unlearning what we have learned from fear. So we've learned this, we must unlearn it, undo it, which automatically allows love to return to our awareness. So the formula for experiencing this divine or unconditional love consistently is really very simple. Number one, we need to train our minds to become increasingly aware of any fear. Okay, so this is awareness. And then step two is to let go of any form of fear that you become aware of. And fear is a general term that Yeshua uses in the Course to refer to any negative, limiting, contracted thought or emotion that's blocking your awareness of love's presence. So you may be asking yourself, well, how do I cultivate the awareness that's required for step one and release the toxic thoughts and emotions in step two? And the answer is, follow the daily schedule that I include in these daily emails. And just to remind you, it's down here. I don't know how many people actually look at it, but this goes into quite a lot of detail about, okay, if you structure your day accordingly, and you do maybe not all of it, but you do some of this during the day, that's going to give you a structure. It's going to give you some discipline to help you in this process of letting go. So there's higher purpose. There's a long meditation to start with. That's helps you to start the day on a letting go note. A guided letting go theta meditation is 1 hour of letting go to start things off. and so it progresses, then the live session and so on. So there's three main methods in this. There's reading the daily posts contained in your daily email and telegram messages. So that's, my own commentary on the quote. Then there's a related workbook lesson, an insert that answers a specific question. Today's question asks, what is the ego, in the original and translated forms in the document. Then there's the meditations, longer meditations that I post to the group every day, shorter breath breaks, which you can do frequently, ideally every hour, to just top you up. Okay, well, I'll just remind myself of the lesson and reconnect, right? All the breath breaks are doing is reconnecting you with the presence of love, with loving awareness. And they just use different ideas to do the same thing. So the more you practice them, the more you start realizing, but it's the same lesson. Every lesson is the same lesson. It's about letting go of the ego or fear and reconnecting with my source, the truth of who I am, the Christ, the true self, whatever you want to call it, true reality that is within me. And then finally, and this is really the cherry on the top, do the live sessions or listen to recorded sessions. If there's not a live session or you can't make the live session, then listen to the recorded sessions. But I think you're the person who's done the most live sessions of anyone in this program. There's a huge value in those
Oh,
because
there is, yeah, no,
it
big
becomes
difference.
interactive and you're
It keeps you
talking, something's come up for you. Like today we discussed
yeah,
the social media thing. Well, that's very current. So then, okay, then we discuss it. And then it's about applying these teachings.
it's motivational as well. It's the motivation, that's the big one, keeping you motivated.
Hmm. Just to remind you of these principles and then how they apply in specific contexts, because that's really what it's about. The principles are one thing, but how does it apply in, okay, we talked about social media today. How does it apply to something else that might come up? And then you get that real time. Okay, well, we talk about it and we discuss and we apply the principles and then it's a counter to the ego. So if you had an ego drama, ego issue, something came up in the session, you can deal with it and you can process it and you can let it go and work through it. So the live sessions are really quite important and key. And then the recorded is a kind of a second prize. Okay, well you can listen and you can get those insights, but it's not interactive, it's not real time. So it may not necessarily relate to what happened today. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It's more passive listening, but nevertheless, you're still listening to a conversation. And I think the dynamic of these live sessions and recorded sessions is a conversation is more interesting than just a monologue.
It is.
If you were listening to me just going rattling on for 3 hours, I mean, it just I don't know if I could do it on my own. And to listen to that is, I remember listening to someone who's he was doing a monologue of about an hour and a half on one of the course sections of the course, I think. And I was like, it's after half an hour you just start to kind of tune out a bit because there's nothing changing it. It's not interactive. It's not broken up. It's not interactive, quick questions and answers. It's just him talking, and as inspiring as anyone, there's a limit to how much you can listen to one person. So the idea of the sessions becomes more interactive, and that promotes learning. So the idea is that you start off by reading. You can read the daily quote. You can read the post, either in your text message or your email. Then you do a meditation, a longer meditation. If you can do the guided letting go theta meditation, then do that. And then you've got a live session later on in the day. You do a live session or you listen to a recorded session, because I've got recordings for almost every day of the program that were for that content. So you can listen to that. And if you do all of those three things, then you will be getting a lot of a lot of the benefits that help you to do step 1 and step 2 really well. And the more awareness you have, the more you can become aware of fear, like you were aware today. Okay, that's because you cultivated that awareness. You know, what came up that made you feel yucky after 2 hours on social media was fear.
Mm.
And that's the ego just uses the term fear to describe any negative, limiting, contracted thought or emotion, blocking your awareness of love's presence.
Mm-hmm.
Let go of any, and then the decision to let it go and say, okay, no, I'm going to extract myself from this. I'm going to let it go and go for a walk instead. And it helped me to dissipate that energy. So you made it by going for a walk, you made a decision to let go of any form of fear using a walk to help. But the more you practice all of these methods, the more aware you're going to be and the easier it is going to become to let go of any form of fear as it arises. Okay, so where does that lead us? Yeah. So we're gonna do the workbook lesson today and insert 12. I don't think we'll have time for the ladder of prayer, but well, let's see how we go, which is section 2 of the Song of Prayer supplement. But there is the text that I've sent you on Telegram as well as embedded in this email. If you click that link, for instance, you'll go, there's the Song of Prayer, or the ladder of prayer, sorry, section 2 of the Song of Prayer. So you can read it, and there's also a discussion on it, which we did last year. So you can listen to that as well. All right, so that leads us nicely into our lesson, which is all about overcoming fear or letting go of fear. So let's have a look at the lesson and the insert as well, which is a new one on what is the ego. So let's jump into that. Let's do what is the ego, shall we? So that's the question. What is the ego? And he answers that. So I will read the original, you read the alternative, just sentence by sentence. Should we do it that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death.
The belief in separation is false, the sign of a limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death.
It is the, quote, will that perceives, this is the, quote, will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied.
It is the, in quote marks, will that perceives pure formless awareness of perfect love as an enemy and takes a form in which it is denied.
The ego is the, quote, proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true.
The belief in separation is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes pure formless awareness of perfect alone is true. And from the top, the belief in separation is false, the sign of a limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the will that perceives pure formless awareness of perfect love as an enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. The belief in separation is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes pure formless awareness of perfect love alone is true. So it's just a contradiction, isn't it? It's the belief in separation is false and it has its limited belief, but it believes in the body and its suffering and its life is going to die. And the
A limited and separated self. Sign of a limited and separated self. So the ego being the belief in separation. So that's the big false belief that then must lead to a separate self. So let's have a look at it in this diagram again. We've looked at this many times before, but we'll take another look in this context, the descent into hell. So the ego is at the top of the ladder of separation. It's the thought of separation, but it's not more than just a thought. It's a belief in separation. You see, so it starts off with a tiny mad idea. Oh, I could be something different and separate from pure formless awareness of perfect love. But that only becomes a problem when we believe in it. If we go, no, this is ridiculous, forget that, then none of this would happen. But we chose to believe in that. So we believed in separation, which is the ego or consciousness or the universal mind or belief in separation or Satan in some of the religious traditions. Call it Satan, the devil. And that predicates then that we must then have a separate self. You know? Belief in separation leads to the concept of an individual self. So now we have an individual self, individuality is born, and that separate identity named must believe that it is guilty by definition. Why? Because it's destroyed, apparently in its mind, it's destroyed this pure formless awareness of perfect love or God. So it is guilty for the sin of destroying this at the very core of its identity. It can't exist without the guilt and the sin for destroying pure formless awareness of perfect love that it thinks it must have done in order to exist as a separate identity. You see the problem? And so the ego is insane by definition, and guilt and sin, and then the fear that comes from that, a false expectation of punishment for the sin of destroying love must then come. False expectation of punishment appearing real, and then that's going to get projected out into the dream, and you're going to get concept of a fearful, wrathful, vengeful God, you know, and all of that is apparently real. Just so you know, Elaine, I can actually see you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. How did that happen?
I don't know. You put the video on, and now it's back.
Oh, God. God.
All right. So the separate self is a necessary consequence of the belief in separation. If you believe in separation, you are going to believe in a separate self, and you are going to have guilt and sin, and you are going to have fear, and that's going to be projected out, and you're going to have a nightmare of accusation, blame, and attack as a result of that. And there's no way out of that. You can't believe in separation and not have that happen. It's part of the system. It's an inevitable part of the system of thought. It comes from the belief in separation. So he's asking us to kind of raise ourselves up into this level and just see the ego at the top level for what it is, and look down on it and say, okay, well, you know, I see that there's a separate self, and that, you know, all of this idolatry, as you call it, all these false beliefs must come if you believe in separation. And so the ego isn't just the separate self. The ego is the whole thought system of separation believed in. And then it makes up an entire reality and world that is now apparently opposite to God, to pure formless awareness of perfect love, which we now believe in, and we now seem to be governed by its insane laws. And then he goes on. The ego is insane. Then can you read that?
Yeah. The belief in separation is insane.
In fear, it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite.
It stands in fear beyond the everywhere, apart from all, and separated from the infinite.
In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God himself.
In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over pure formless awareness of perfect love itself.
And in its terrible autonomy, it, quote, sees the will of God has been destroyed.
And in its terrible autonomy, it sees that pure formless awareness. And in its terrible autonomy, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, I can now, yeah.
Yeah, it sees that pure formless awareness of perfect love has been destroyed.
It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams. Its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them.
It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. And from the top, the belief in separation is insane. It stands in fear beyond the everywhere, apart from all, and separated from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over pure formless awareness of perfect love itself. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees that pure formless awareness of perfect love has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. Well, it's just saying how insane the belief in separation is. It just stands for fear everywhere. And from all that are separated from this infinite. So in its insanity, it can become the victor over the pure formless awareness itself. So it sees the pure formless awareness has been destroyed and dreams of punishments and trembles at the figures of dream and the enemies who seek to murder. It's a sorry state of affairs.
Yeah. And he's stating it very bluntly so that we have no illusions about what the ego is. You know, there's some teachers and teachings, oh no, you need a bit of ego because the ego helps you kind of manage in the world. Without the ego, you can't cope in, you know, the 3D plane. You need it to manage aspects of your life. We've heard those teachings, but those aren't course teachings. Whoever's teaching that is not teaching the course, because there's nowhere in the course that he says that anyway. He's really just saying the ego is a nightmare, the ego is insane, the ego is false, and the only way to deal with the ego is to let it go entirely. You can't entertain any of it. Because if you entertain some of insanity, then that infects your mind and you become insane. A little bit of murder, a little bit of attack is somehow okay. The ego is trying to tell you that, but it's not. You know, murder and attack and hatred and fear and pain and suffering and sickness and death are not of love. They have nothing to do with pure formless awareness of perfect love. They are its opposite. And we just have to see that. Our only job in this world is to see very clearly the distinction between those two ideas, between the two voices, between the two thought systems, and make a choice between them. That's it. That's what we're here to do. If you choose the ego, you might have think you've made a clear-cut choice, but you can't ever deny the truth. So you've chosen it temporarily, but it's going to continue to vex you, cause you endless pain and suffering and misery and sickness and ultimately death until you change your mind. And eventually we all change our mind. That's, that's the teaching. Because eventually every mind must realize that this illusion of an ego is just that. It's an illusion, and the insanity and all the pain and the suffering that are not real. So he's just highlighting what it is. He's telling us, exactly. It's one of those stick paragraphs we talked about before. He's like, okay, I'm just going to show you the ego, and I'm not going to mince my words. I'm going to be very clear and very direct about it, so that no one who reads this could be under any illusion that the ego is in any way a good thing, and that this is something that you should try and save. I don't think anyone could read these words and think that. You'd have to not read them, or completely misinterpret them or overlook them to somehow interpret them in a way that justifies the ego's existence, wouldn't you?
Mm.
So he's saying really very clearly there is no justification for the ego's existence, because it doesn't really exist. It's just a dream. It's a false idea that you've made into something. So made something out of what is actually nothing. And then are you surprised that illusory reality that you've created doesn't work, and that it's insane and it causes all this pain and suffering and sickness and death? Are you surprised when the thought system that gave it birth is false? We shouldn't really be surprised. Well, what else could you expect from what is false? But what doesn't work? Okay, so then he carries on. The Son of God is egoless.
The extension of perfect love is not separate in any way.
What can he know of madness and the death of God when he abides in him?
What can I know of madness and the death of perfect love when I live in the pure formless awareness of perfect love?
What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy?
What can I know of sorrow and suffering when I live in eternal joy?
What can he know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding him is everlasting peace, forever conflict-free and undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility?
What can I know of fear, punishment, sin, guilt, hatred, and attack when eternal peace is all there is surrounding me, forever conflict-free and undisturbed in deepest silence and tranquility? And from the top, the extension of perfect love is not separate in any way. What can I know of madness and the death of perfect love when I live in pure formless awareness of perfect love? What can I know of sorrow and suffering when I live in eternal joy? What can I know of fear, punishment, sin, guilt, hatred, and attack when eternal peace is all there is surrounding me, forever conflict-free and undisturbed in deepest silence and tranquility? It's just saying that the extension of perfect love is not separate in any way. And how can it know the madness of death when it lives in this pure formless awareness of perfect love? And what can it know of, what can I know of sorrow and suffering when we live in this eternal joy? And what can I know of fear and punishment, etc., when eternal peace is all there is surrounding us, and conflict free and undisturbed, in deep silence and tranquility?
Yeah, indeed. So he's giving us the alternative to the ego, which he's gone into in the previous paragraph, but he never leaves us there for long. He gives you a stick paragraph or two, then he's gonna give you the alternative very quickly to contrast them. Say, well, actually, there is really no separation. What can I know? Like, is any of this really real? the madness, the death, the sickness, the sorrow, the suffering, fear, punishment, sin, guilt, hatred, and attack. Everything that's in here, demonstrated this, shown in this diagram, illustrated in the diagram. Guilt and sin, which has to be projected out. Now you believe in a fearful, wrathful, separate, and vengeful God. The expectation of punishment appearing real because of your sin. And then you have to project the blame onto others. And so now you blame and attack the extensions of God, of pure formless awareness, because your guilt demands that. They need to be the guilty ones and not you. Which then just perpetuates fear and perpetuates the guilt and the sin that they come from. And so you get caught up in a system of guilt, sin, fear, attacked, living a helpless, innovative little life of limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and inevitably death. And if you look at it like that, laid bare, the ego is not pretty, is it? It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Of epic proportions. But fortunately, he's saying, well, there's a way out, because none of this is true. Actually, what can the Son of God, the extension of perfect love, who's woken up to pure formless awareness of perfect love, what does this mean to you? If you're rooted in pure formless awareness of perfect love, what can all these crazy ideas really mean? And the answer is nothing. So that's the reinterpretation of the ego's dream by the Holy Spirit. That none of it really means anything. And therefore you can escape from all of it. Okay, should we carry on to number 4?
Yeah.
He's pointing us just final. Eternal peace is all there is surrounding me, forever conflict free and undisturbed in deepest silence and tranquility. So pointing us back into the blue circle of pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is loving, peaceful, joyful, and eternally happy. Nothing has ever changed here. It's the same as it was before the idea of separation came into the mind, and as it will be when the idea of separation has completely been eliminated from this. Awareness hasn't changed at all, which is why it's eternal. Okay, so to know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails.
To know reality is not to see the separate self and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its freedom, and the cost belief in it entails.
In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die.
In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the extension of perfect love is offered daily at its negative shrine, and blood must flow before the foundation where its sickly followers prepare to die. And from the top, to know reality is not to see the separate self and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its its plans for its freedom, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the extension of perfect love is offered daily at its negative shrine, and blood must flow before the foundation where its sickly followers prepare to die. It's just pretty gloomy paragraph about
So he's going back into the step into this is what the ego is. and what it does, which is what the section's about. What is the ego? So he has to answer this question for us, and he uses strong language and quite graphic symbols,
Mm.
imagery, because he's trying to teach us that this is something that we don't want, and there's something that we really need to let go of. It's not something that we can accept any longer into our minds. There were some teachings like, no, that's okay. You can have your ego, and that's all right. He's never saying that. I've heard even luminaries like Byron Katie. She's saying, "No, the ego's not really a problem. It's just you just got to manage it." No, I mean, how do you manage a psychopath? It's like saying you're going to let Hannibal Lecter into your life and into your house, and you're going to somehow try and manage a psychopathic killer. That doesn't really work, does it?
Mm.
You can't really manage an entity that is so horrendous. Oh, well, I'll just sort of manage it and control it. And I've heard I once went to a church, and the pastor or preacher was talking about, well, the ego is okay. You can accept the ego as long as the ego is under the control of God. Well, how does pure form of awareness of perfect love control a psychopath that's just out to kill and hate and destroy and murder? These are just opposite energies. There's no controlling relationship because they're opposite. So it's one or the other. You can't have some kind of hierarchy of, oh, well, on the top level, God is all love and light, and then a little bit down below, the ego is under its control. But the ego is this bloodthirsty, insane, crazy entity that just wants to kill everyone and everything. I mean, that clearly doesn't work. They are just
It's,
opposites and must be perceived
yeah.
as such. And then you choose between them.
I mean, it's gone into real graphic detail. I mean, not everybody has all these graphic murderous thoughts. They might have angry thoughts, but this is like really graphic, isn't it?
Well, what he's trying to say is that you have an angry thought that is really murder, right?
Oh, I
Any
see.
anger,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
anyone, is
Yeah. Yeah.
really murder.
Yeah.
Just minor irritation is a covering for intense rage, and
Yeah.
intense
That's what he
rage
does.
can kill
Mm.
someone. So let's be honest about what's going on here, rather than trying, oh, well, it's just a bit of irritation, and that's okay, and that's kind of normal. We all get
Mm. Mm. Yes.
irritated.
Just.
No, when you're irritated, like I don't you, and I want to hurt you, and
Mm.
most people don't act that out because we've been taught that that's not a good thing to do, and you can't act out your irritation and your aggression because then you get into trouble. We have
Mm.
laws to stop people doing that, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're thinking those thoughts and feeling those feelings.
Then it's, yeah. Then it's.
It's it's murder. And I remember, I became very aware of this in part of my awakening. I was having an argument with my wife, and there was a knife on the counter, and
Mm.
I had this impulse to just take the knife and stab her.
Mm.
And I was actually, I didn't, fortunately, otherwise I'd be in prison
No,
right
no.
now.
But I know what you mean. We all get these
But
real
there
rages.
was a
Yeah.
there was an impulse, and I have to say, I mean, that was part of my awakening. It was shocking. I was shaken to the core because I was like, wow, I didn't know that that was in me, but it just got
It's
revealed.
ego. Yeah. Yeah. But it's not you.
Yeah, the ego was murderous. In that moment, I could have killed her if I'd listened to that impulse, because I was just like, this is just, and there's a
Mm.
knife there, and she's right there, and I'm like, well, the ego's like, well, just, you know, stab her. And some people do. This is what happens.
Course, especially if
And
they've had
then,
a drink. Especially if th've had a drink. Yeah.
yeah, well, exactly.
There's no
Substance abuse
boundaries. There's no
is
boundaries. Yeah.
control, and you get an impulse and you act on it, and then, well, one insane moment, and suddenly you're in prison,
Mm.
and that's it. Your life is ruined,
Yeah.
which is the ego's plan. Like at any point, it's trying to cause maximum pain and suffering. So we need to be mindful. We need to be vigilant. We need to be aware that, okay, this is actually what's going on. And I found it really, really hard to cope with that for weeks or months, maybe even years after that. I was like, wow, I didn't realize just what was going on in my mind.
But we all have it in us because it's
We
the
all
ego
have it.
in it.
It is there. The killer's there if you're honest about
Yeah, yeah, of course.
it. And if it gets triggered, I was lucky because it got triggered and I was aware of it, but I didn't actually do it.
No, no.
So I
Yeah,
got
but
away. It's like, okay, I didn't actually act on it. So,
no, no.
I didn't get punished. I didn't have to then face the consequences for that. But there are many people who do act on these impulses and then they end up being criminals and they end up going to prison, which is why, our prisons are overflowing because
It's
they
a lot
don't
of
have the mental
domestic murders.
control
Yeah.
to stop. Yeah, often it's domestic violence. I don't know what the stats are, but a high proportion of murders are people doing it to each other because they just,
But
they get angry and they can't control their anger and then, they lash out and then one moment of that and suddenly you've either assaulted the person,
you
so
kill them.
that's a crime, or if you're successful, you've killed them. And now you're a murderer.
Mm,
And we know the consequences of murder are like 25, 30 years in prison.
mm, mm,
And that's it. One mistake and consequences are severe. So yeah, I think he's being graphic to try and help us to say, look, this is what it is. It's a murderer, and don't have any other illusions that it's anything other than that. So you need to see it for what it is, and you need to let it go. You can't entertain, a psychopathic killer in your mind and also be loving and kind and helpful and happy. It's not possible. These are contraindicated. They totally contradict each other. And be aware that if you are having any kind of irritation, any kind of anger, frustration, it's just murder. You're just kind of covering that over and you don't want to see it, but actually you want to kill the person if you're really honest about it.
mm,
So
mm,
you're a murderer then in that moment. It doesn't mean that that's who you really are. It just means in that moment when the ego's hijacked your mind, it wants to make you into a murderer and it wants to do horrible things to you.
mm,
And that's how it works. It possesses a mind and it motivates it to act in these unkind, hurtful ways, and then its reality is apparently manifested and made real. Oh, well then, pain and suffering and sickness and death are real because look, it's been now manifested because someone has actually acted on the ego impulse and has killed someone or hurt someone, and then that apparently becomes reality. And then you see that on the news saying, well, and someone's inevitably someone at some point during the day somewhere in the world has acted on the ego, and then it becomes news if they've acted. Oh, someone murdered or killed someone, and you read those stories daily, don't you?
mm, mhm. Yeah.
And that's the ego's reality. Apparently the ego's saying, well, look, I'm real. Because look, someone's murdered someone, so that thought system of attack, punishment, death is real. But he doesn't leave us there again. So he's gone, look at what he's done in these paragraphs. He spent three paragraphs giving you the stick, and now there's 2 paragraphs that gives you the light interspersed in there, saying, so now he comes to our rescue again, and he says, yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions to the shrine of life itself.
Mm. And yet one thought of letting go would change my separate self's negative awareness into pure formless awareness and the foundation of illusions to the foundation of life itself.
And peace will be restored forever to the holy minds which God created as his son, his dwelling place, his joy, his love, completely his, completely one with him.
And peace will be restored forever to the innocent minds which pure formless awareness of perfect love extends as its extension, its dwelling place, its joy, its love, completely its and
Yeah.
completely one with itself.
And then from the top.
Yeah. Yet one thought of letting go will change my separate self's negative awareness into pure formless awareness, and the foundation of illusions to the foundation of life itself. And peace will be restored forever to the innocent minds which pure formless awareness of perfect love extends as its extension, its dwelling place, its joy, its love, completely its, and completely one with itself. Completely its. Completely its.
Yeah. Yeah, formless awareness of perfect love is the its.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, 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 yeah.
its dwelling place, its love.
Mm-hmm.
So completely it's,
Yeah, got it, yeah.
maybe we could say completely itself. Completely itself.
Yeah.
Completely itself. Completely, yeah, and then we got completely one with it. Yeah, doesn't really work. So it's and completely one with it. So it's again, he's giving us the salvation. He's saying there's a way out of this madness. You don't have to believe in this, fortunately. You can just let it go. One thought of letting go. So just one thought of letting go undoes the entire ego's thought system. If you're saying this anger, this fear, this hatred I'm feeling isn't real, you're saying the entire system isn't real, which is why forgiveness is so powerful. Because you deny the entire system. So whenever you forgive radically, you're letting go of the entire ego in that. And of course, the ego knows that, and that's why it has such resistance to it.
It gets, yeah.
It says to you, no, you don't want to do that. Don't go there, because it knows it's the beginning of the end. If you keep doing that, you are going to free your mind. You are going to awaken. From the dream, and it doesn't want that. So, all right. So let's just read the summary and the key message to wrap it up. I'll do the first one. You do the second.
Yeah.
So on. So the belief in separation is entirely false and rooted in the idea of a limited self, doomed to suffer and die in a body. It denies pure formless awareness of perfect love and perceives it as an enemy, distorting truth by claiming that strength is weakness, love is fear, and life is really death. The belief in separation is insane, imagining itself as separate from the infinite and victorious over perfect love. It dreams of punishment and perceives enemies to attack out of its fear, perpetuating conflict and suffering. Okay, so what's he saying there? Some quick summary of that.
Just again about the belief in separation is just entirely false, and it's limited, self-doomed to suffer and die, and it denies his pure formless awareness of perfect love. It sees it as an enemy, distorting truth, and it's the whole separation, belief in separation is insane. It imagines itself as being separate from the actual infinite, and victorious over this perfect love. And it dreams of
And then it must believe in punishment, dreams of punishment. Because of your sin, you must be punished, and the enemies that you perceive will punish you. And then you must attack the enemies before they attack you, and that just perpetuates conflict and suffering. And this has been going on for forever in human history. One person against another, one society against another, one nation against another, perceiving as an enemy that's apparently outside of you, and that just perpetuates the separate self and the conflict of the separate self and the suffering of it. He's just telling it for what it is. What I like about the course. Some people are like, oh, it's a bit kind of hardcore and full on, and he's
graphic, yeah.
It's graphic language, and I don't like it. I prefer sort of more gentle spirituality.
Yeah.
But he's telling us this to help us out of the dream. Is we think the ego is something that's okay and we can kind of tolerate it. We're never going to get out of this insane dream, are we? We'll continue to suffer. So he has to kind of graphically describe it to help us change our minds and say, this is really insane. And who in their right mind would believe in this? That is so insane, that's so painful, that's just about hurt and pain and suffering and sickness and death. Why am I believing in that? But if it's not graphically enough described and it doesn't seem awful enough, then where's the incentive to give it up? So, there's method in his madness. That's why he does it. All right. So read paragraph 2. Only.
Yeah. In truth, I am the extension of perfect love, eternally united with it, living in pure formless awareness of perfect love. I know nothing of madness, suffering, or fear. Surrounded by eternal peace and joy, I remain unaffected by all illusions and separation. To know reality is to see beyond the separate self and its false thoughts, plans, hopes, and dreams, which really demand great suffering and sacrifice from me in return for the illusion of freedom. It's just saying our real truth is part of this perfect love, eternally united with living all things, and it doesn't know anything of suffering and madness and fear. It's just surrounded by peace and joy, and it's eternal, and we're totally unaffected by illusions. And yeah, that's who we are, really.
What I like about this is how comprehensive it is. And so the original was it's anyway to know that reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, the cost belief in it entails. All of it, the entire system has to go. And that thought system makes up the world that we think we know and that is real. All of the works, the acts. Now, when you go into social media and news, you're really immersing yourself in the ego's works and its acts and its laws and its beliefs, aren't you? And its dreams and its hopes and its plans for its salvation and the cost belief it entails. It's all there. Graphically, demonstrated and displayed in your newsfeed. So that can be a great awakening experience if you understand what's really going on. Okay, I've got to let go of all of this. The ego is telling you, no, you've got to believe in all of this. This is your reality. This is your world. This is your life. You have to believe this.
Well,
if you don't believe it,
yeah, it's just my news feed's got the ego and also the Course in Miracles. I do have a lot of posts with spiritual adverts in it as well. So I've got a bit of vacillation again. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so within this dream, you'll see signs because the dream isn't true. There's always light, but it's usually covered over. It's usually a bit hidden. You've got to make an effort to see it.
Mm.
The covering over of the dream is more prevalent in this world because it's the ego's world. It was made precisely to cover over the truth of who you are.
Mm.
That's a massive realization. When you realize this, that's freedom. So, okay, I get it now. Why does the world not work? Because it wasn't designed to work. This isn't God's world. It was designed to perpetuate the ego, which is insane. And that's why we have an insane world. And suddenly the light bulbs go off, don't they? You're like, oh, I get it.
Mm.
Why does the world not work? Because it wasn't meant to work. It was
But there are,
meant
yeah,
to enslave us in a dream of separation that's ultimately going to kill us.
but there's a lot of people that are just sort of cool about it, think, oh, well, what will be, will be. They're just, yeah, they're happy enough in their ego skin.
Are
They don't,
they? Really? Maybe temporarily for a while,
yeah,
but inevitably, the ego is going to cause pain and suffering.
yeah, yeah, as they get older, of course.
Ah.
Mm.
So, that illusion might last for a while, but the pain, the suffering, the sickness, the death will inevitably come.
Mm. Mm. Of
And
course.
then, they won't be so happy. Everyone's going to face loss, people die,
Right.
sickness,
Mm-hmm.
suffering, and eventually you're going to die. And then you start wondering, well, what's it all for? As the body decays, if you don't wonder what it's all for, then you're not awakening. So, well, what is it all about then? Because everything I valued is now falling apart, and ultimately it's going to go. And then I'm going to die, and then what? What's to become of this character, the separate self and the body that I valued so much? It's going to die. It's just going to fade away and go away and die. And we live in that insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow we try and make that system real and meaningful, and because everyone's in it, that's the human experience.
Yeah.
And we try and justify it, but he's saying it's not justified. None of it actually means anything. So one thought of letting go transforms this negative awareness into pure formless awareness. All illusions dissolve, and the foundation of separation, let's change that to foundation, is replaced by the foundation of life itself. Peace is restored to the innocent minds, extended by perfect love, eternally one with it in joy, love, and truth. And so what's he saying there?
We're just talking about just one thought of letting go can transform this negative awareness into into our pure formless awareness. And this is when the illusions will dissolve, and it's replaced by the foundation of life itself.
So one thought of letting go has the power to free your mind entirely. You see, that's why there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Okay, well, the letting go says if that's an illusion, then it's all illusion. Do you understand? Because I can't believe that this is an illusion and isn't real, and then believe in the rest of it. It's all got to go.
Mm.
That's why forgiveness, radical forgiveness, is so powerful. It undoes the entire dream. In practice, it's a process of learning to let go of the apparently separate false images and idols that we've worshipped. And you do that systematically and progressively. So as you let go of each one, you restore your mind more to the truth and you learn more of who you are. Okay. And just the key message. So that's the summary of the whole thing in one
Yeah.
paragraph. You can read that alone.
The belief in separation is false and insane, leading only to illusions of sin, guilt, fear, and suffering in many forms. In truth, I am the extension of perfect love, eternally united with it in peace and joy. By letting go of my belief in separation, and separate self, I awaken to the eternal life in pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Just by letting go of this belief in separation, and it's false and insane, in all its illusions of sin, suffering in all its many forms, when in truth we are the extension of perfect love, united with it in peace and joy. Just by letting go of this belief in separation, we can awaken to the eternal life in pure formless awareness of perfect love. So, yeah, just let it all go.
No, it never leaves us. It never leaves us in the darkness. If people say, "Oh, the course is a bit dark," they haven't really understood it. You know, he's highlighting the darkness so that you can let it go and go to the light. That's the only purpose for
Getting
looking
to
at the dark.
the root, yeah.
You have to look at the darkness to let it go. You're not going to let it go if you don't become consciously aware of it.
Mm.
So it's bringing it into awareness, recognizing it, and then saying, "Okay, I can make another choice. I can let this go." And then you're choosing consciously, choosing spirit over the ego. And it's that precisely that choice that letting go is designed to help you make. Whenever you let go, you choose the spirit over the ego, the true self over the false self.
Mm. Yeah. Well, like most of us, it just will be glossing over the darkness. We know it's there, but this is really bringing it, into the utmost graphic of what it truly is like.
Yeah.
Self, yeah. Because we tend to gloss over it because you're thinking, well, I'm not like that. I don't think murderous.
But
All of these
like
graphic.
as I said, in that experience, my awakening really started in earnest when I got in touch with that darkness. And I was like, my God, I could actually be a killer.
Yeah, yeah,
If I acted on that thought
Mm.
and that impulse, I would be a murderer. So gone are the illusions of I'm such a good person and I'm all spiritual and I'm teaching it. No, it's like, hang on, there's a killer in there.
Just
You know,
deep in the roots, yeah.
let that go. I
Gloss
need to
over
really,
it. Mm.
yeah, not gloss over it. I need to really look at that and I need to let that go. That, insane, murderous, attacking thought system must go.
Mm.
Because you start to become aware that you can't tolerate that anymore when it's a big when you become aware of it. It's not hidden anymore.
Mm. Yeah, that's it. It's bringing it
And
to the.
and it's like, okay, I've got to let it go. And then I started making the connection that my separate self, this Jono character I thought was, so good and spiritual and was actually the problem. That Jono character was the murderer in
Mm.
disguise, you see.
Yes, yeah.
Make the connections and you go, okay, that separate self, that character that I believe in, is the one who will get angry, who could be provoked to murder, as I've seen, and that has to go.
Mm. Mm.
And it has to go because it's so shocking. I mean, how can you want to keep,
Of course, yeah. No, yes, I understand. Yeah. Mm.
a murderer in your consciousness and
Yes.
harbor that and say, well, at any point, I just get pushed enough, I could actually be a murderer. No, that's not acceptable anymore. That's got to go. And
Yeah.
then the work really begins. Okay, now, I've really got to learn this course to help me clear that out of my thoughts, out of my energy, out of my mind entirely. So the ego is undone and it's gone.
Mm.
And that's when the spiritual awakening really starts. When you get in touch with the murderer and you understand that there's a murderer within you and you say, okay, enough's enough. That's got to go. And that's exactly what he's trying to stimulate with these teachings, to get you to have that realization. I'd read this passage before. Honestly, it didn't mean that much until I started having those experiences. And then I reread this and I was like, okay, I get it. Why did I not see it before? Because it wasn't immediately in my experience. That's why. And when you have that experience, then you're like, okay, I understand now what he's saying and why he's using this graphic language, because it is a killer, it is a murderer, and it's horrific. It's horrific. It's insane. And there was a time I was like, God, I don't even know if I can cope with this thing. But you have to go through that dark night of the soul to let it go. Okay, so that leads us nicely into the lesson. Let's have a look at today's lesson then.
Before we get upstairs, it's just have a funny feeling all my.
Okay, so the key lesson in the original is fear binds the world, forgiveness sets it free. If you want to read that alternative version below that, Elaine.
Yeah. Fear imprisons the world. By letting go, sets it free.
There's a great image of the goldfish going from the crowded bowl. You know, the fear is the herd psychology, or in this case, the shoal of fish. And it's getting out of that and going into the clear water, and making the leap, saying, okay, I'm gonna do it. So that would be the hero, right? The hero's journey is the person who is psychologically letting go of the world, detaching themselves from the ego's dream of fear, and is no longer going to buy into that dream, and is going into the crystal clear waters, which then symbolize spirit. Okay, that's clear, that's peaceful, that's calm, it's simple. And you're going to make a break from the ego, and you're going to go into that. And that happens internally, that happens in your mind. Sometimes people physically take themselves somewhere, and they'll go in to a quieter, calmer place, they'll go on retreat, etc., to facilitate them, but it's an internal. So, okay, enough of this crazy thought system. I'm out of this fearful mindset, and I'm going to make a decision to let it go and go into the clear waters of spirit. And that's what the image symbolizes there. Okay, so into the text of the lesson. The ego makes illusions.
The belief in separation makes illusions.
Truth undoes its evil dreams by shining them away.
Truth undoes its evil dreams by shining them away.
Truth never makes attack.
Truth never attacks.
It merely is.
It merely is.
And by its presence is the mind recalled from fantasies, awaking to the real.
And the mind is recalled from fantasies by its presence, awakening to the real.
Forgiveness bids this presence enter in and take its rightful place within the mind.
Letting go invites this presence to enter in and take its rightful place within my mind.
Without forgiveness is the mind in chains, believing in its own futility.
When I fail to let go, my mind is in chains, believing in its own futility.
Yet with forgiveness does the light shine through the dream of darkness, offering it hope and giving it the means to realize the freedom that is its inheritance.
When I fail to let go, yet when I let go, pure formless awareness shines through my dream of negative awareness and
When I do let go. So the last.
When I do let go, pure formless awareness shines through my dream of negative awareness and suffering, offering it hope and giving it the means to realize the freedom that is my inheritance. Yeah. The belief in separation makes illusions. Truth undoes its evil dreams by shining them away. Truth never attacks, it merely is. And the mind is recalled from fantasies by its presence, awakening to the real. Letting go invites this presence to enter in and take its rightful place within my mind. When I fail to let go, my mind is in chains, believing in its own futility. Yet when I do let go, pure formless awareness shines through my dream of negative awareness and suffering, offering it hope and giving it the means to realize the freedom that is my inheritance. So it's just
So that.
saying about how the belief in separation makes illusions, while the truth undoes its evil dreams and shines them away, because it's just saying truth never attacks, it just is. And when we fail to let go, our minds are in chains and believing in all its futility. But when we do let go, then this is when pure formless awareness shines through this negative awareness of suffering. So, what's the means to realize the freedom? Offering it hope and giving it the means to realize freedom, and it's our inheritance.
Yeah. So again, he's highlighting, what letting go does, what letting go doesn't do. When you fail to let go, what happens? When you let go, what happens? It's a very, very simple teaching. This isn't a complicated teaching, but it's just asking us not to make exceptions. So how do you let go of the entire world that you think is real? That's the question. Well, you do it bit by bit.
Yeah, exactly. Baby steps.
You do it in moment by moment, especially when you feel challenged and fear comes up. That's when you've been called on to let it go. It's okay, I can let go of that thought, that emotion, which is imprisoning my mind. You're honest about it. Fear imprisons you. It's not a happy state to be in.
No.
So my letting go sets the world free. I'm setting myself free, but I'm also setting the world free. The world's just a projection of thought. So when I free my mind, then I free the world that's the projection of the mind. And I'm doing my bit then for the awakening. I'm becoming a miracle worker rather than someone who just perpetuates illusions. And most people, the ego is trying to enroll everyone into this. Say, well, just carry on in this fearful quagmire, and this is normal. This is reality. And the awakening beings of the world say, no, this isn't reality. This is madness. This is crazy. This is the madhouse. This is terrible. I want out of this. And they take the hero's journey to get out. And the ones that stay think they're mad. This is Plato's cave, allegory all over again. The prisoner's chained to the rocks and just looking at the images on the wall, thinking they're real, think that the one who's escaped and gone into the outside of the cave, who then comes back and says, "Hey guys, there's a much better reality. I'll show you. These images aren't real." They think that this person's insane and they want to kill them because the ego just believes in imprisonment. So anyone who's trying to speak for freedom must then be insane by its logic. Because the only alternative would be that it is insane. You see, this person is right about reality, then it's the ego that's insane and its entire thought system doesn't stand. Which is why, there's some of the great spiritual masters like Socrates had to take hemlock because the authorities of the day didn't believe in his teachings, and they said, well, you either got to leave the city physically or you've got to go, you've got to commit suicide. So they gave him that choice and said, okay, I'm out of here. Yeshua, classic, he was that fish, wasn't he? He was the Christ who's saying, you guys are all insane, follow me into the clear waters of spirit. And some did, but the majority didn't want to, and so they said, well, just kill the fish who's breaking ranks. because that'll maintain our control over the ego world. Except, the fish resurrected and came back and said, "Well, hang on, I'm back. You can't actually kill me." Bit of a problem for the ego's thought system of death, because they never found a body. Anyway, so that's the example. We follow the fish. If you're on a spiritual path, you're following someone who was one of these fish, who's making a break from the ego's world of fear and darkness into the light of truth, and that then became a spiritual path and teaching, like the Course, like Christianity, Buddhism. All the great teachings came from someone who did this, and then they just get a bunch of followers, and then we go, oh, they were genius and they were masters, but at the time, society didn't welcome them. And that was the case with all of them. Okay, so number 2, which is a prayer. We would not bind the world again today.
I choose not to imprison the world again today.
Fear holds it prisoner,
Fear holds it prisoner,
and yet your love has given us the means to set it free.
and yet your unconditional love has given me the means to set it free.
Father, we would release it now.
My source, I choose to release it now.
For as we offer freedom, it is given us.
For as I offer freedom, it is given to me.
And we would not remain as prisoners while you are holding freedom out to us.
And I choose not to remain a prisoner while you are offering freedom to me. And from the top, I choose not to imprison the world again today. Fear holds it prisoner, and yet your unconditional love has given me the means to set it free. My source, I choose to release it now. For as I offer freedom, it is given to me, and I choose not to remain a prisoner while you are offering me freedom to me.
Yeah. Okay, so thoughts on that? What's he saying in summary?
Well, it's just we've made the decision not to be imprisoned by the world today, and because the fear holds us prisoner, and we want this unconditional love. That's what will give us the means to be free.
Yeah, what keeps you in this? If we go back to the image, what keeps you in the scrum, in the fear?
It's fear, yes, fear.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, and social media perpetuates that. Well, you just got to kind of follow the crowd, and do what everyone else is doing, and this is all normal. When actually it's insane. You're just in an insane society. And those who call it for what it is are then seen as outliers, and you're rocking the boat, and you're being difficult, and we don't want this, and years gone past, they would be killed. Now you can't do that, but you can be named and shamed on social media. People can attack you verbally, and try and undermine you and slander your name, and so on and so on.
Are you watching it?
Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, so the message is very clear. Let it go and find freedom, or you carry on in the way you're going with fear as your guide, and you're enslaved. And sickness, suffering, pain, and death are the product of enslavement. Okay, so any other thoughts on that, Elaine? It is almost 30:30. Happy to do a meditation for you.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ring you at the end of the
Oh,
day.
yeah, sorry, it's just yeah.
Yeah, sounds like it's all kicking off there. So
Yeah, a little bit.
do you want to end that?
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, good,
End the
good,
session
good
here.
session. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, that's great. Oh, now the conversation's finished, but yeah, I'll drop off now.
Well, as I said, I'm happy to do a meditation for you if you want to end it, or you can
Yeah,
end it.
well, Yeah, go on then. I mean, yeah, I can. Yeah, it's just I did have a couple of things I wanted to do, a couple of messages, but yeah, that's fine. Yes, if you could.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okie doke.
Yeah. And if you drop off, just to let you know about tomorrow,
Oh yes,
there'll be a session. I'll run it tomorrow evening. We
in
could
the evening.
start. Yeah, if we could start at say 6:30, that'd be useful.
Right. Yeah, I think that should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okie
All
doke.
right. So, let's do a med to close this out.
Yeah.
Med from the lesson together. So we're going to look at causes. Okie dokie. So this is a meditation on today's lesson 332. Just getting yourself comfortable, getting into your favorite meditation posture, sitting, your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight. Cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. And a subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale. Just scan your mind and notice any forms of fear. So it might be obviously like you're anxious about something happening or not happening. It's a form of fear. Maybe a bit more subtle. It's be a feeling of anger, or what's underlying the anger is fear that your expectations won't be met. Frustration, form of fear. So just be aware of any of these forms of fear. Just breathe into them. Nice deep inhale breath in through the nose. Imagine you breathing freedom, higher awareness into the dark, contracted feeling. Notice how fear feels. Often it shows up in your stomach as a knotted sensation, maybe a tight chest. The extreme, it goes to sweaty palms and nausea and panic attacks. Whatever the symptoms of it are in your body, just notice those. Nice deep breath in, breathe into them. Just inviting this higher awareness in. So say to yourself that fear binds the world and forgiveness or letting go sets it free. So fear imprisons the world. By letting go sets it free. And so you breathe in that freedom into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is now infused with this freedom. And exhale, just exhaling out, just letting it go. The breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. Just going, gone. All the stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here in this calm, quiet, peaceful state for a few moments. And then breathe in again. Let's get into a pattern of nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breathing. Breathe in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils. and listen to these words. You can repeat these words either in your mind or say them out loud. So breathe in as you listen, and then as you exhale, you repeat the words aloud or say them to yourself in your mind. So the ego, or the belief in separation, as we call it, makes illusions. And repeat that as you exhale. Breathing in again. Truth undoes its evil dreams by shining them away. So have a sense as you breathe in of breathing the truth into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. And you exhale. Have a sense of truth being shone away by the dreams being shone away by the truth. You blow them away with the breeze of your breath like dark clouds or black smoke, just leaving you, going, gone. And by its truth never makes attack. Truth never attacks. Breathing in on the truth of that. It's always peaceful, always loving, always kind, always gentle. So truth merely is, merely is. Feel the solidity of that statement. Just is, God is, and then we cease to speak. It's a course quote. Just is, and if you can just accept the isness of it, then you're saved. And the mind is recalled from fantasies by its presence, awakening to the real. Letting go invites this presence to enter in and take its rightful place within my mind. So invite it in now. Just breathe in and invite this presence, this loving awareness in to take its rightful place in your mind. Without forgiveness is the mind, without letting go. When I fail to let go, my mind is in chains, believing in its own futility. So if you want to believe in illusions, you don't let go of them. Your mind is in chains, with the bondage of them. Believing in its own futility. Yet, when I do let go, pure formless awareness shines through my dream of negative awareness. The light shines through the dream of darkness in the original. Pure formless awareness shines through the dream of negative awareness, suffering. Offering it hope and giving it the means to realize the freedom that is my inheritance. Exhale on the truth of that. Feel the freedom Feel this freedom, can only happen in the now, can't be free in the past or the future. So your mind isn't free in its true state of awareness. Just thinking about false thoughts, which bind the mind into a false reality. Freedom only happens right now. As it says, is your inheritance. Feel that freedom. With freedom comes love and peace and joy. Breathe into that deeply. Feel it arising in your heart, in your mind, in your whole energy system. Now to express that, give thanks for what you So now say a prayer. Say, I choose, as you breathe in again, I choose not to imprison the world again today. It's a conscious choice, affirmation of that choice that you're making. Fear holds it prisoner. And yet your unconditional love is giving you the means to set it free. You're talking to your higher self now, your source, part of your mind that knows that these words is true. Fear holds it prisoner. Think of what happens when you're fearful. Fear holds it prisoner, and yet your unconditional love has given me the means to set it free. So breathe that love into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. As in freedom, joy, love. Feel that expansive awareness, just freedom in your mind, in your heart. Say, my source, I choose to release it now. My source, I choose to release it now. So breathe in all the love, the light, peace and joy, the freedom of this. To every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. As I offer freedom, it is given to me. I choose not to remain a prisoner while you're offering freedom to me. I choose not to remain a prisoner while you're offering freedom to me. So breathe in this freedom to every pore, every cell, muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. Accept this freedom, not be imposed on you, it has to be willing to accept it. And just rest in this freedom. Accept the gift of freedom that's given freely to you by your source. It's nothing you have to do to work at it, to earn it. I need do nothing. The Course expresses it as this. Just be aware of it. Give yourself the time and space to be aware of it. And so just sink inwards for a few minutes, silence to the end of meditation. Sink into the freedom comes from the unconditional love of God, just pure formless awareness of perfect love. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about, just breathe, relax, be still. And surrender to the experience of perfect love, perfect unconditional love. Just give yourself over to that. Just feel freedom. All that for minutes of deep silence. Any thoughts come up? Fearful thoughts, anxious thoughts, just breathe in, observe them, remind yourself that fear binds the world, fear imprisons the world, and by letting go sets it free. And breathe in the light of your true awareness, blow out the darkness of fear, it's gone to nothingness that it really is. Pull the stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Just sink inwards deeper and deeper with each breath into this calm, quiet, peaceful state of surrendered awareness. In that state, you let go of your ego and you are So just gently coming back to an awareness of the body and the breath, senses in the world, and on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises, the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils, and pause at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind, and for any scraps of fear, which might be anxiety, worry, or something a little bit less obvious like irritation or frustration. Just in the form of fear, remind yourself that fear binds or imprisons the world, and forgiveness or letting go, my letting go, sets it free. And so you exhale out and have a sense of releasing, just letting go of that thought, that emotion, that energy. Blowing it all out. Breathe of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. The lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Notice how the energy subsided down from the crown of your head, down the front channel of your body, into your groin and your buttocks. Count to 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling, your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. Smelling your nose as you breathe in again. Notice what you're smelling, notice what you're feeling and touching with your body, hearing the surrounding environment. You notice all these things from this very still, calm, unattached state. Nothing is really real. Don't touch any reality to the images. You don't give the self any food, the separate self any food through the world that it's created. Just remain in the peace. Surpasses all understanding, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. So it is said and so it is done. Now on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So just take a moment to look around, noticing various objects in the room around you. In this calm, quiet, peaceful state. Don't name anything or judge it or label it, just observe it in this clear, calm, aware state. And you'll notice that there is no fear. It's just a calm, quiet, clear awareness. This is the truth of who you are. Even though you're engaging in sense perceptions now, that awareness hasn't changed. That's the freedom that the lesson talks about. Letting go sets you free to be in this awareness, pure, formless awareness of perfect love. We call it in alternative language, which is God, which is truth, which is reality. So as you look around, notice that this awareness is there always, no matter what you're looking at, doesn't matter. This awareness is the underlying nature, the underlying reality, what you're looking at, whatever you're perceiving with your other physical senses, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. This underlying awareness is the truth. So just close your eyes, notice this freedom. Then you think the state is still there. Set the intention to stay in this state. for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow and the rest of your week. So it is said and so it is done. So having set that intention, carry on with your day in this fearless flowing way. You need to top yourself up, just do that by remembering the lesson, and you can listen to one of the breath breaks that I sent you if you're part of the Ask and Letting Go course program. Then freedom when the illusions of bondage get seemingly overwhelming. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and of tonight's session. So thank you for watching and listening. Thank you to Elaine for joining. If you followed this on the live stream or on a recording and you would like to know a bit more about what we offer, how you can get involved, then go to lifepool.com. You can see that in the background of the video or down below in the text box. Just click the link, go there, and you can sign up to Telegram group to receive a daily quote. You saw an example of that from Marianne Williamson at the beginning of the session. Some commentary on that, which is some teaching on those principles that I've written. And that leads into a mind training lesson from A Course in Miracles in its original alternative form, as you saw us discussing, reading and meditating on in this session. There's usually a section of the text or another section of the course to read. We didn't get to it today, but the entire Course in Miracles is translated into an alternative language. So you get access to those translations, as well as meditations, longer meditations and short mini meditations or breath breaks to help you top yourself up through the day. That comes to you on the group as well as notifications about these live sessions, which you can then join via Zoom. So check it all out, lifeboat.com, do sign up, and I hope to catch you on the inside of that group. If failing which, if you would just like to be notified whenever I go live, then hit the subscribe button and YouTube will notify you whenever I'm live, which is 3 or 4 times a week, and you can join the live sessions or catch the recordings afterwards. So take some action and make some different choices this year to make it a better year, a year in which maybe you finally start your hero's journey of awakening. I'm running a Art of Letting Go course starting in about a month, so join the go to lifepool.com, join the group, and you'll find out more about that, what's involved. So thanks for watching and listening, and bid you farewell. Namaste, which means the truth, perfect love, perfect loving awareness in me, acknowledging what is that same true, perfect loving awareness in you. And wishing you much love, peace, and joy in that awareness. Until next time. Bye for now.